Hi, Conrad here from the Golden State Salmon Association, again with another tutorial. I'm here at the Outdoor Pro Shop with my friend Brett Overshine, and what we're going to do today is talk about crabs. The season's coming up in about 3 weeks, we hope, and we want to make sure that all of you are up to date with the new regulations and maybe some tips and tricks on how to get some more crabs in your pot. Hey Brett, tell us a little bit about what we got going on here.
So essentially what we got going on right now is we got the square Danielson, also known as the Promar crab pots. We have these rigged in store during the entire crab season. And then we have right next to it the model that's just unrigged that we also sell. These are going to be a little bit cheaper.
One of the advantages too, Brett, is because these are like this and then they fold down, it's a really nice and convenient way to carry them on a smaller boat. So if you've got maybe a 16-foot boat and you want to get, you're only allowed to have 10 crab pots this year per person. So if you wanted to get maybe 10 boats on or 10 crab pots on a 16-foot boat, these would definitely be the way to go because they can collapse a lot more easy to carry than
then right over here we have the round 32-inch crab pots. These are probably our #1 seller. We make these, our Pitbull Tackle brand is what makes these. We also have these rigged all season long. One more thing about these is they're very popular for our kayak fishermen that come in, just because they can fold them down and stack them and put them on their kayaks.
Exactly. They've got the escape rings already built in, so you don't have to worry about putting the escape rings in. And I gotta say, Outdoor Pro Shop's done a fantastic job of pre-rigging these pots. So you can just come in and buy a fully rigged pot and know that you're ready to go fishing. Super cool. Tell us about some of the rigging that you've done on this one.
So with the square pots, what we like to do is put a harness on them, just so it kind of gets everything centered. With these pots, it can be kind of a pain to pull them up when it's just coming from one side. And since they are a folding pot, they tend to fold down sometimes when you just pull them from the side, like how we would have them tied on those ones. So we like to do the harness on these. Usually on all of the pots we rig in-house, we're gonna have a bait jar with a bait pin hooked inside, and then also a bait bag, just so you have the option. And then all of our smaller crab pots are the square ones are gonna come with 100 feet of leaded crab rope.
So Brett, on 100 feet, what do you think the deepest that you'd want to fish on 100 feet?
Probably gonna be 75 at the deepest.
Yeah. It's a good rule of thumb to go kind of 25% of your line length. So 100 feet, 75 probably max. Really easy to go ahead and switch this out and add another length of line if you were going to fish in 150 feet. You know, you do the math, 110, 112, somewhere in there for your length of line.
The one thing about these is they are a little light, even though if you add weights, they can move around a lot in deeper water. So that's kind of one reason why we do a shorter rope, is they're pretty popular for the shallow water.
And then you've got, what's the size of buoy?
So this is going to be a 5x11 size buoy.
Right.
This is going to be the minimum for the regulations this year, as well as you have to have a red buoy above it. I forget the sizes.
I think it's a 3x5.
Yeah.
So
and they have to be a maximum of 3 feet above that buoy. Some people like to run 2 buoys on that. I believe that's still legal. We haven't heard anything that it's not, but you have to have the red buoy above it at least, or at a maximum of 3 feet.
Also notice that the buoy, the pointy end, the bullet end if you will, is pointed at the pot. This allows the buoy to sit and bob and float. All right. If it was pointed the other way, there's a lot more resistance to that, and you actually would get a lifting effect by the buoy, and that would cause the pot to actually walk. And that's what the biggest cause of people saying, hey, somebody stole my pot, whatever. It's just not what happens most of the time. Most people rig their pots incorrectly and they just lose them. You want to discuss about maybe some of the benefits of a round pot versus a square pot?
The big thing about the round pots is they aren't foldable, so they don't fall apart if you were to have that problem. One thing that we do for our rigged ones for the square pots is we bend in these a little bit more just so it's harder to fold them down.
Good job.
But with the round pots, they don't move as much. You can hold a lot more in them. They're a lot more structurally sound to them in general. As well as the lid, it's a lot bigger, so you can definitely get things inside and out a lot easier. Just because that's only probably like a 7x7 opening on that one, while this is almost a third of the whole pot that you can open. Another thing is the doors. They have an angle up just so you don't have to add weights to these doors. They're not going to really open on their own, as well as the crab can just fall in.
The other thing too, Brad, is that there's 2 doors typically on a 32-inch round pot, and there's 4 doors on a square pot. One of the advantages of the square pot, quite frankly, that I think is for a short soak, a day soak or a couple days soak, the square pots are likely to get more crab to come in because it's going to take a little longer for the crab to figure out how to get in just the 2 doors. The disadvantage is, quite frankly, these doors will float open, whereas those doors are much less likely to float open, and that you've got 4 doors floating like this, and they're gonna what's known as leak. One of the solutions to getting these doors not to float so much is to take a rubber core, typically a 2-ounce, and you can stick this right on the ends of this, just pry it open, stick it on there, and that will just give just enough weight to allow that door not to float open and closed with the tidal surge. What do you think about weighting your crab line?
With the leaded crab rope that we have on all of our pots and that we sell in the store, you don't need to weight it. It's all going to sink. It's all going to be sinking more than you need to. If you're going to be using some of the polycord or anything like that, you definitely have to have it just because you don't want it floating and you're not allowed to have it floating.
There you go.
You can either use those that we have, I believe they are a Danielson weight, and those just slide on the line. Some people zip tie weights onto their line, stuff like that, but that's definitely going to be the best way to do it if you're using polycord.
And then one more thing, your pots need to be identified, personally identified with your Go ID number, okay? I like to put, as well as my Go ID number, my phone number on there, so if someone does find my pot, they can call me and say, hey, I found your pot, it's at the Spud Point Marina, right there. But it is required to have your Go ID number identified on your pot and on the buoys. Anything else that we might have missed?
Another kind of regulations thing is every fisherman that's going crabbing this year has to have a crab gauge on their person at all times while they're crabbing. It's been something that's kind of just been around forever, but just kind of a recommendation. Make sure
every fisherman. So if there's 4 fishermen on, how many do we need?
4.
There you go.
As well as the new DFG, Department of Fish and Game, they have added a crab stamp.
Oh, that's
it's
right.
$2.44, I believe, is the price. And we do sell those in-house. It's just going to be just like getting a fishing license anywhere where you can get your fishing license online or in store, you can get it. And it's just a simple process, just as easy to get your fishing license.
I will say that Outdoor Pro Shop has a voluminous assortment of gear. These guys are really good at helping you out with any questions you might have about rigging. So come on down and check it out, but by all means, be safe and get lots of crab. Thanks again for supporting Golden State Salmon Association.